And so the next guy is Deandre Swift. And so his targets per route run rate was super encouraging. Listen to this list. Since 2017, here are the players who were targeted on at least 23% of their routes and were 21 years old or younger. We've got Justin Jefferson, 23%, Christian McCaffrey, 23.7%, Saquon Barkley, 24%, and Deandre Swift, 24.8%.
Wow, that is
it's a good list to be on.
Yeah. Jamie, let me just ask you about DeAndre Swift. It seems like Heath is super high on him. I'm not sure how you compare to Heath in terms of DeAndre Swift, but Anthony Lynn always gets his running backs involved in the passing game, and that's a great thing. He also is kind of is it fair to say he's a dual back RBBC kind of coach? So do you think that's going to be the case? Like, what kind of workload do you think DeAndre Swift's going to get?
I think he's going to lead the team in touches, but you do bring up a point that concerns me is, the signing of Jamal Williams, the fact that they released Kerryon Johnson, I think is a good thing, but the signing of Jamal Williams, who doesn't have the upside of DeAndre Swift, but can play a similar game like DeAndre Swift because of what he can do as a pass catcher. Again, not the same type of player, but can do the same type of things. So I wonder what they're going to do with Jamal Williams, how much they're going to use Jamal Williams. And then the thing I fear with DeAndre Swift is I think he's going to be a fantastic pass catcher, but what is the touchdown potential? What is the yardage potential? The offensive line clearly is going to be good with the addition of Penei Sewell. But the team's going to be bad. And the passing game, while I agree with Jacob, I love TJ Hockenson, it's probably going to struggle. So, do they score enough points? This could be one of the worst offenses in football, aside from these two guys. And so, I think Swift is a very good round 2 pick. It's just he's in that, for me, that kind of mess of guys that you could rank in any way possible, of Swift, of Akers, of Najee Harris. You want to throw Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb in PPR. They're all kind of in that same range of, the swing through, 18 overall. So, anywhere from 10 to 18 overall, that you can justify taking them as high as 10, or you can probably wait to get them in the back end of round 2. But I love DeAndre Swift in PPR. I'm a little bit more concerned about him in non-PPR just because of the touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Jacob, how would you rank DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, and Cam Akers?
So I think Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers just bring significantly more upside. And so I think I would have to have those two ahead of him. But I do think for PPR, I think Swift actually has the safest floor of that group. So I guess it kind of depends on if you already have another running back in your team or whatever, what you're going for there, if you want upside or not. But I think I would have him behind those two.
Okay. Did you get your Hunter Henry?
Yeah. So his, I thought this was the case. His target per route run rate wasn't very high because he actually ran quite a few routes. And so like at tight end, that is, it's really important to just be aware of how their team uses them, because some players are going to have really inflated per route run rates when that really isn't that actionable because they're not running a lot of routes. You know what I mean? Like George Kittle's rate's like insane. It's like as high as Devontae Adams, but like he's not running quite enough routes for him to have that type of an impact. But Henry was 11th among tight ends, 18%. But he was higher than Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan and, Dalton Schultz and people like that. So it wasn't low. It just wasn't super high.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a break here on fantasy.
Hockenson is a better prospect than Henry. So you got to assume that that matters.
Yeah. And he's already shown an ability to be targeted at a higher rate earlier in his career than
I was just curious, looking at Anthony Lynn's guy.
Yeah.
Bringing that to Detroit.
Yeah. I just don't know how much I want to invest in Detroit. I
think that's fair.
My issue with Swift and my issue with Hockenson, and you've all heard me. I draft Hockenson around 60th overall if I have one of those swing picks.
Mm-hmm. But those are two guys that are worth investing in, though.
I hope so, but I'm so sick of this Detroit. Amir Abdullah, I was excited about going into his second.
Look,
Kerryon Johnson, I was excited about going into his second year.
Yeah, but Swift is a different prospect. he's shown you something. Jacob just gave you the numbers about his age versus what his production could be.
Yeah.
And I think when you say investing in Detroit, look, there's two guys that are going to get drafted in their first 6 rounds, and we just named them. Then there's 2 guys you take flyers on, essentially, Jamal Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then the last 2 guys would be Tyrell and Perryman, maybe Cephas. But those are throwaway picks. If they do anything for you the first couple of weeks, you'll hold on to them. If they don't, you cut them.
I don't care about that. I'm happy to invest in Rashad Perryman with my last pick. And
right.
I don't care about that. It's, do I want to spend a 2nd-round pick on Deandre Swift, who had 12 or 10 touchdowns in 13 games? Detroit running backs last year, 17 rushing touchdowns. That's a huge number. That's more than they had, or that's as many as they had in the 2 previous years combined. They have not, I don't know the last time they reached 17. It's been a really long time. So that was weird. They're usually a bad offense that has very few rushing touchdowns among their running backs. And I don't know what the split's going to be in terms of the carries for DeAndre Swift. So I am worried about his touchdowns. He's
going to get at least 60% at worst case scenario.
Yeah. But the guys that you're drafting around him are probably going to get 80 to 90% of the carry. Some of them, Cam Akers, maybe Jonathan Taylor.
But that's why he's one of the guys that his value changes depending on format.
Yeah.
So like Jacob said, his PPR value can be comparable to Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers. In non-PPR, you'd be crazy to take him over those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then there's half PPR, which is always tricky. And why am I bringing up Jonathan Taylor? I know basically everyone's going to draft Taylor over Swift, but actually Heath has Swift 1 spot ahead of Jonathan Taylor in his PPR rankings. So there's that.